Hello everyone, and welcome to another News Coolum video. I wanted to talk a little bit about the most recent news we've had in terms of the fires and the Bolt EV fires that happened post-update. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit and address some myths, I think, regarding the Bolt EV and regarding some of those fires and what some people have been saying about them. Basically, what we have now from GM is a full acknowledgement that there are defective battery cells that really either can't be preemptively checked with software, that could go bad at any point in time and basically immediately catch on fire, combust, burn down the whole car. Very catastrophic fires, right? So we know this. GM has basically acknowledged this. Now, people were critical of GM trying to say that they were denying that beforehand. But I think GM was actually being very honest in their assessment that they believed that the software could prevent battery fires in EVs. And in fact, that's why they're installing it on all future EVs as well. But this specific defective cells goes way beyond, I think, what GM anticipated. And I actually could envision a world where, in order to preserve their partnership with LG, GM actually said, look, we will try this software solution. Hyundai tried the same thing with the Kona Electric. We will try the software solution. We're not going to badmouth you. We're not going to sue you or anything else. You're our business partners. But if this software is not 100% effective, then we're going to need you to provide us with replacement batteries. And that's what this second recall looks like it is saying there's an acknowledgement of, hey, there's a defect in these batteries. We can't figure it out. It's not in the US built LG cells. It's not in the European built LG cells. It's only in the cells that came out of Korea and China, only in the Asian LG cell factories. So something happened, and it might actually be common with the Hyundai Kona Electric. Remember, LG insisted, oh yeah, there was a little flub with folded anodes that might have caused fires, but we don't think it was that big of a deal. And then they accused Hyundai of saying, oh, it's your BMS programming. Hyundai pushed back and said, we tested in labs and we found that there are actually faulty separators in the cells. That's what caused the fire. LG said, no, it couldn't be. Hyundai said it definitely is. GM said, well, whatever our problem is, it's not faulty separators. Well, this is a new problem that GM didn't know about before. Hyundai might have been right all along. So it looks like basically this is GM saying, hey, the software worked. It was effective. We know we replaced cells under it. We replaced BCMs under it. All sorts of things were replaced, right? One Bolt EV owner, their car bricked after the update, and they said, what happened? Well, that's exactly what the software is supposed to do. Shut the car down, so you have to take it to the dealership. And sure enough, they took it to the dealership, and their battery cells were replaced. So the software worked. It mitigated fires. It prevented fires. But it wasn't enough. And now we're looking at possible replacement cells, maybe for every 2017 Bolt EV all the way through mid-year 2019 Bolt EV. So this is a massive undertaking. Hyundai, that's what they wanted to do. Newsflash, they're still trying to replace all the cells, right? And meanwhile, their owners are driving around in cars that are significantly less capable than the car that they purchased off the lot. So, I mean, this is a big problem for everybody involved. But hey, you know, there's only one course of action at this point, which is to fix the batteries. And so, yeah, I don't know what else to say. We're just basically waiting for more information from GM. They don't have a hard deadline. They're basically just saying, hey, look, we're gathering resources now and we'll notify owners when we're ready to start replacing batteries. So it could be next week. It could be next month. No matter what, though, it's going to take a long time to replace 69,000 batteries, if that's how many they're going to have to replace. So all of that out of the way, that's kind of the update. GM said, do not charge past 90% if you can. Basically use Hilltop Reserve mode. So that's back to that old fire mitigation thing, which seems to have prevented some fires. It seems to work better for whatever this other defect is, in fact. And then the other thing is they said something new that don't drive it to below 70 miles or about 30% battery unless you have to, right? Basically avoid it if possible, and then charge up every time you can. Basically always be charging. I think that's partially about conditioning the battery, but I'm not sure. People have said, oh, well, now we can't use the bottom third of a battery. No, you can, but make sure you recharge right away. Like it's just, don't do it if you can help it. All right, well, I'm going to interrupt this broadcast. One thing I didn't really note is when I was talking about this recall notice that GM also told the owners to not plug in unattended or leave the car plugged in like indoors, right? Or don't park indoors. So those are two really big constraints that I think need to be addressed. And again, don't consider me the authoritative source for the recall notice. I'm going to put the link to the Chevrolet recall notice below in the description below. So go check that for the official sort of GM Chevrolet advisory to owners. But the other thing is there's a bit of a breaking news here too. Apparently an owner spoke to their Chevrolet concierge and the dealership, and they specifically said that they would be replacing 2 modules. Now this is going to go into maybe what I've already discussed or discussed a little bit more detail in this video in terms of not necessarily needing to replace 100% of the Bolt EV packs or 100% of any given pack, right? Because it actually, if the concierge, if what this account is saying is true and accurate and representative of what they're being told, and only 2 of the modules or maybe possibly 2 of the sections, again, it's kind of a little bit unclear of what exactly they were told, that could actually make sense in terms of what we already know about the Bolt EV, the batteries, the battery behavior. Almost all of the fires appear to have started in the rear of the Bolt EV, and with the exception of one Ampera E that looks like it might have started in the front, but we don't know if that just could be where it was venting, right? But the other thing is too, there are 2 very unique, physically different battery modules or sections to the Bolt EV. If those were the ones that have this manufacturing defect, then again that could make sense because those are also placed towards the rear of the pack. But one other thing that sort of indicates what GM is saying here, or that this concierge is saying here, might be true, is that if you go to the Bolt EV forums, a lot of Bolt EV owners have tracked their pack voltages across each cell group using Torque Pro, and almost without variance from 2017 through 2019, there's a dip in voltage for a certain set of sections. And in fact, early on, this is what a lot of people were assuming might have been causing the fires, is certain sections weren't reaching a certain voltage, so the battery charger might have continued to charge the cells even after the rest of the cells were overcharged, which could lead to a fire. And so in that case, a software fix would have been in order. But what this is indicating is that dip in that cell voltage could actually be related to these faulty or improperly manufactured cells, because if you look at that same voltage chart for the 2020 Bolt EV and later what we've tracked or seen tracked, it's just flat. So when you have sections of a battery that are 1, 2, 3/10 of a volt off the rest of the battery, that's a worrying signal. The fact that it was a pattern made people think, oh, that it's just systemic part of what the Bolt EV is, or how it's configured, or how the battery is configured. But no, this could lend additional credence, again, if this account and this statement is true from this Bolt EV owner, what they were actually told from their concierge. So I think it's worth considering, and if this is in fact what's being communicated, I think it's somewhere between plausible and probable that what GM is saying is 100% accurate, and that only a couple of sections of any given Bolt EV battery need to be replaced. And, you know, I think as Bolt EV owners, we also need to question, are we in this to assure that our batteries are safe and that we're getting the vehicle that we paid for, or are we looking to get free stuff? and a free upgrade. Because unfortunately, what I see is a lot of people, it's almost like what they're expecting is a full-on battery replacement, because they know that it gets a superior battery charging curve and about 4 to 6 kilowatt hours of additional usable battery capacity. So it's almost like we should get a free upgrade, right? And not only would that take a very long time for GM to do, is it necessary or fair, right? And so I think this is worth considering, because if it is only a couple of modules that need to be replaced and they've identified those groups that are bad, we could look at a possible resolution and solution to all of these Bolt EV battery fires just within a matter of a few months. So that to me is promising, because again, my number one priority is making sure there are 0 additional Bolt EV fires, and that Bolt EV owners can be confident using their car the way they intended it to be used, and being able to park in a garage and do all of the things that they're accustomed to doing, all of the conveniences that come with owning an electric vehicle. Anyway, so I will return back to the original segment. I know this was quite a deviation. So really, that's kind of where I want to segue into some of the myths that I've seen shared about what's going on with the Bolt EV fires, and in particular GM's response to it. So, I mean, the first is that their first recall was software only. And I mean, it was, yes, that's true. But that, I think, is a myth, in that it implies that nothing was done. And as I already said, we know that batteries were replaced under it. We know that the diagnostic identified a number of batteries. We know that the software, at least I know of at least one battery that's the software prevented at-risk cells from being left in the car, right? So it bricked the car, the owner had to take it in, the cells were replaced. So we know the software is working, right? And the fix isn't the software. The software is just an indication that a fix is necessary. So the first recall is really replacing at-risk cells. The software is just the tool for how to do that. So I think it's a myth to say that it was only software. The other myth that I think is getting pushed around is that GM can just quickly replace all these battery cells, as though batteries were just plentiful and available. Again, I mentioned this in the last video. The reason the Bolt EV's production was limited to 25,000 a year is because that was how many batteries LG could produce. Now you're talking about replacing 3 years worth of batteries. How long do you think that's going to take? It's not going to be a fast process. Now, they did say that they might have doubled their NCM 712 battery production, but that still means it's 1.5 years, 2 years to replace all the batteries, and that's if they forego making and selling any other Bolt EVs, which isn't fair to prospective buyers or affected Bolt EV buyers who want to trade in maybe for a Bolt EUV or a 2022 Bolt EV. So, they're not going to be able to just snap their fingers and replace these batteries. Another one of the myths that I wanted to address is that GM isn't doing anything. Again, I'm not saying that they couldn't be doing better, because there are some valid complaints out there about unresponsiveness or rejected buybacks, things like that. But there are other options, right? So you can, if you're not going to do a buyback, if you are going to hold on to the battery, you can also get a loaner car from one of the GM Chevrolet dealerships, right? And if they're not offering loaner cars, you can also get a rental car under this, and fuel prices or whatever. So it's up to you to kind of negotiate that. But if you don't feel safe driving your car, you have options, right? And then the next myth that I wanted to address is that all of the batteries are bad. And I need to emphasize this. They can't be. 69,000 batteries are not bad. And I don't even think that there are 69,000 Bolt EVs with bad cells at all, right? You can't have that many and have as few fires as what we've had. So I think it's a myth when people are saying, oh, all of the batteries are bad, all of the batteries need to be replaced. No, if GM replaces all the batteries, it's going to be due to an abundance of caution. They're going to be doing it to appease the customer, and because they want to take absolutely zero risk that any cells slip through both their software diagnostic and this whatever information they now have about the manufacturing and parts runs for these bad battery cells that they've identified. So realistically, GM could eliminate all of the risk with just replacing a few thousand batteries probably, and it would be 100% risk-free, but that might not appease customers. And so if GM does replace all of the batteries, it will purely be to appease customers, not because it's absolutely necessary. And so I don't want people to go in thinking that 100% of the batteries for the 2017 to 2019 Bolt EVs were bad, because that's just not true. Another myth that I saw is someone was mentioning that you can't DC fast charge the Bolt EV when it's under recall. That's absolutely untrue. There's a lot of data showing that possibly DC fast charging might be better for batteries than the onboard AC charger. Just consistent voltage, higher current. Yeah, it's not bad for the battery to DC fast charge. The Bolt EV has a battery charge that is well within the specifications for the cells. It's a 0.9 C max charging rate on a cell that's rated for 1 C. So DC fast charging the Bolt EV should not be any problem at all. I haven't seen any advisory, anything indicating that you can't do it. So if someone knows of something, please let me know, because I haven't seen that documentation from GM. I haven't seen any evidence to prove that you cannot DC fast charge one of these cars, even if it's under or subject to this recall. And then the final myth that I wanted to bust, and this is really, really terrible, and I don't believe that Elon Musk stooped as low as he did. So Elon basically on the Teslarati, Tesla fan site Twitter page, he posted something about how many gasoline fires there were, but couched in that tweet, he was implying that pouch cells are inherently less safe than cylindrical cells. And of course, what's his reasoning for doing that? Well, Tesla, ever since Tom Gage replaced his Optima yellow top lead acid batteries with cylindrical cells, well, Tesla's stuck with that. They've been in a rut and they've never been able to evolve since. And so they're stuck with this sort of aging technology that might not be appropriate for automotive use, but they're constantly having to justify it. That's why they're constantly improving the cylinder cells that they're using. But this is just one more case of that, where they're now trying to imply that somehow or another that these cylindrical cells are safer and less fire prone than pouch cells, which is just not true, right? So it's basically Elon Musk is now trying to cash in on someone else's misfortune. And that's unfortunate, because what's implied in this is that the VW ID4, the Ford Mustang Mach-E, the Audi e-tron, the Porsche Taycan, that they're all somehow more of a fire risk and less safe than their Tesla model counterparts, which is absolutely untrue. Take, for example, the Nissan Leaf, an EV with zero thermal management, right? No battery thermal management, using pouch cells. Out of all of the years of production, we only know of a single Nissan Leaf fire. How many Tesla fires have there been in the last 10 years, 12 years? There have been a lot. And so Tesla is using cylindrical cells, by Elon's logic, should have fewer fires than the Nissan Leaf. But that's not actually true. So if anything, there's data that proves the opposite of what Elon Musk is saying, is that cylindrical cells are actually more dangerous. I don't believe that either. The cylindrical cells aren't inherently more dangerous. What it demonstrates, or what it proves, is defective cells are a fire danger, and defective cells or defectively constructed batteries are a fire danger. It doesn't say that pouch cells are more of a fire risk than cylindrical cells, or vice versa. So I think it was really low, and I think it was basically, it's like I said, cashing in on other people's misfortunes, and that was pretty low. But anyway, consider that myth busted. Anyway, I'd love to hear what you think. Are you affected by this Bolt EV recall? Is it affecting what you do with the car, how you drive it, where you drive it, what do you do with it? And what sort of remedies are you really looking for from GM, right? What would you like to see them do? And what's a timetable that you would find acceptable if they are going to replace your battery? Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. And thank you for watching.